every American, right?
That's exactly right. Yep, that's it.
You know, if this guy was Barack Obama, you know what they'd all be calling him, right? A potential what? Antichrist.
Destroyer.
Or
exactly.
Potentially the Antichrist, right?
Yeah.
I don't think he is the Antichrist. I don't think he is.
No, I don't either.
But it's amazing the silence. But this one today, something just flipped in the social media realm. Something just flipped, and you just heard it from America's farm.
Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff operations officer, assisted the national security team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan, and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
When children go to school, the teachers give lectures, and they're tasked with remaining in their chair for almost 7 hours a day. And for many children, especially boys, this is too much, and they tend to bounce back and forth off the walls. And what is the school system's answer to that? To give them more lunchtime, to give them more recess. It's to give them detention, less recess, and less movement, the opposite of what they need. And if the hyper behavior continues, then they go to pharmaceuticals. Now, I am required to say that all parents should seek the opinion of a professional, although I will say some professionals are a lot more natural than others. But according to the school, the problem is almost always the child and never the system. And what I always recommend to parents is to have your child do more running, shorter lessons, active lessons, nature walks, hands-on learning, and give them breaks. So the lessons themselves could get the children out into nature, making things with their hands and moving around much more so that kids could learn in a way that's more natural. And there's nothing wrong with teaching them that sometimes they have to sit in place and to focus, but that could be achieved in much healthier increments than 7 hours a day, 5 days a week. And while there's nothing wrong with discipline, I actually think it's important. It doesn't have to be done in a way that contributes to the root of the problem. Check out my private homeschool community. And Cubs to Bears, books, classicallearner.com.
Welcome back to Training Tuesday. The Rob Maness Show's live on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast. Well, saving our kids from psychological manipulation. That's the deal, folks. In today's schools, millions of kids are taking medications that alter the mind. Many starting on them before they're in preschool. I know that from personal experience. Our family has experienced this phenomenon like many other American families have. And if they're not careful, our children's lives could be completely destroyed in their adulthood. Well, my guest today is a mom who had a similar experience and quickly became an advocate for her own son and has likely positively impacted hundreds of thousands of other kids affected by these diagnoses, medications, and treatment that often fail completely. Over the last 30 plus years, Barbie Rivera has encountered hundreds of children who, like her son, were told, you can't learn. You need some medication. Of course, many of these kids have been placed on multiple mind-altering medications before their baby teeth have even fallen out. That's what our experience was. Barbie found that in addition to the medications being pushed, the textbooks and lessons plans were overly complicated and deliberately confusing, ruining a child's natural love of learning. Her book, Enough is Enough, fully documents the destructive agendas and psychological manipulation that American children are being subjected to. And they are in the mainstream public, private, and charter schools. And the book aims to, or the schools aim to keep them drugged and keep them dumb, according to the book. Barbie, welcome to the Rob Maness Show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, I appreciate you coming to spend this time with us. Yesterday we had Corey DeAngelis on for an hour, and he's the homeschool evangelist, is what they call him. And we took a look from a political perspective at the public school system. But when I had the opportunity to have you on, since I have direct personal experience with this issue with my youngest son and one of our other sons that's older now, this is something that every parent needs to be aware of before their child sets foot in any school at all. But first, tell us about your background and where you came from.
Well, I'm born in Cincinnati. I'm a Cincinnati girl. I never went to college. I was, as a student, I did well. I wasn't terribly interested in high school because I wasn't an academic. I was an artist, and that's really what I wanted to pursue. I knew I wanted a big family. I wanted like 8 children. I ended up with 4. But my elementary experience was wonderful. I think I was in first grade in either 1969 or 1970. And it was, we had 3 recesses a day, including lunch. There was songs, there was no homework, there was no standardized testing. It was a very easy pace. And so when my son went to school, I was expecting him to have the same experience, and it was absolutely a disaster from the get-go.
What did you see different
Well,
specifically with him?
first of all, he was expected to write book reports before he could read. Like, he was sent home on the first day of school with about 2.5 hours of homework. And I'm like, he's 6. And then it was the 10th day of school. It was the second Friday of school that the teacher told me that my son was mentally handicapped and most likely will need psychotropic medication for the rest of his life so that he can learn. And I'm like, there's absolutely no way my son has any type of disability. He's completely fluent in 2 languages, which I was not. Anything I taught him at home, he learned. Like, he could do everything that I taught him. He'd never thrown a temper tantrum. He was easy to get along with. And I'm thinking that the school's going to love this boy, that the teacher's going to love this boy and wish that she had 25 more just like him, because he was super respectful, very pleasant, very easygoing. And yet 10 days in, oh, he confuses the G and the P and the D and the B. And I'm like, yeah, but they look alike. Like, how far are we going to take this? He also believes in Santa Claus, so are we going to, like, is he hallucinating at the same time? Anyway, the school was very adamant about him getting labeled, and I said no.
In what way were they adamant?
Well, almost every day that the teacher when I would pick him up, was like, look, more Fs, more Fs, more Fs. And I'm looking at the work. Like, first of all, I was 7 months pregnant with my 4th one. My 4th child was due in November, so this was September. And I didn't think I could homeschool him because I had a 1-year-old, I had a 3-year-old. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do a better job than what the public school system is doing, which I was wrong on, very wrong on. And no disrespect to teachers and this, that, and the other who really I think that most teachers go into the profession hoping that they could be the teacher that I had in first grade. Like, there wasn't the pressure for the testing. We could sing about the letter A, we could practice the letter P, we could use Play-Doh for the letter D and the letter B, because it was understood that those are confusing points. But we had time. There was we weren't getting a PhD when we were 6. And I really feel that that was how my son was treated. And I don't think that education's not important, but it was just so stressed Like it was so stressful that my 6-year-old is going to be a failure in life because of his confusion of these letters. And I go, I'm really not worried about it because he doesn't confuse a cow with a goat. Like
Right.
he knows his differences. And again, this is new to him. He's learning to read. It's not that he can't read. He's learning to read. He also can't drive a car. But I'm pretty
Yeah.
certain by the time he's 16, we're going to have that mastered. Like pretty certain that that's going to happen. And the school didn't like that. And their counter to me on that point with the letters was he also confuses the 6 and the 9. And I go, again, they look alike. That is not, to me, that's not a stretch. It's like
Yeah,
when you
most
have
kids at that level have just learned to kind of print those types of letters and numbers. If that, they haven't even learned them
it
all
takes
yet.
practice. It
Yeah.
takes practice. I mean, the average child has to learn when they're putting their shoes on left and
Mhm.
right. And they often
Yeah.
put the shoes on the wrong feet. I don't think that's an indication of their future life. I think that's just like, okay, the parents either need to draw dots on the inside of their shoes so they line them up, so until they get it, they will get it. Most of them will get it. And my son was one that would get it. And the other argument I had was if we put my son, who at age 6 had gone on multiple sleepovers, he would go with family to Key West to go fishing. Again, he never threw a fit. And he was out there and social and doing these things. I go, if you put him in the same category as a child who cannot do those things, to me, it's disrespectful to the family of a child who does have actual disabilities or actual special needs. My son is not that way. He's 6. That's the only thing it's not even wrong with him. It's right with him. He's 6. So he's exploring, he's learning, he's afraid of the thunder until a little bit older, he learns what thunder is and the clouds and the this, and he overcomes it.
Yeah. So did the school try to make you take him to get to psychological medical providers and those kind of things?
Well, the school provides that for you. Like it's in the school, which again, I'm like, if you talk to him, if you say anything to him, I will sue. And I didn't know how to do that. I think that
Hmm.
honestly, I think they were somewhat picking on me because like I say, I was 27, I was young, 4
Hmm.
kids already, so fill in the blanks on that one. But I think that they thought that I was stupid and that I would go for it. And I'm like, I'm not going to do this. I'm like, I've worked really hard to create a very respectful young boy.
Hmm.
And I think that the school system should embrace him because I am what I considered a decent mother. I read stories every night. We cooked together. We cleaned together. I was very hands on. It wasn't like, oh, go over there and leave me alone. It wasn't
Yeah.
like that at all. Anyway, so that's kind of like how I put my art supplies down and got involved in education as a homeschooler. Because by the end of first grade, my son had learned one thing at the hands of the experts and the college educated and all of this. He learned he was stupid. And he would say that to me, which was like a knife through my heart. He's like, I'm
Yeah.
just stupid. And you see the decline. He used to, I don't know, he used to tell jokes to my youngest son who was in a little carrier, and he would
Hmm.
tell the most ridiculous knock-knock jokes, and the baby's getting attention and is laughing, and my son and his friend are laughing, and it was a nice little love fest. And I'm like, hey, can you
Hmm.
tell the baby some jokes while I make dinner? And it was easy. And I just saw him like his enthusiasm for his family, for his day to day, for, hey, do you
Hmm.
want to put a blanket over the table and make a tent? You can sleep in it tonight. It's Friday night, no school tomorrow. No, that's okay. I saw his
Yeah.
joy just kind of diminish. And I'm like, what are we doing here? He shouldn't
Did he
feel this way.
did he start behaving differently in the classroom setting and being
Well,
the problem boy at all
no, he
because of
was never,
this?
that was the other thing. He was never the problem boy.
Okay,
He
good.
lost his confidence. Like, and I'm like, you want 100 children like this. He's not going to lie to you. He's not going to steal from you. He's not going to, if he does get a bad grade, he will own up to it. If he loses a game, he doesn't throw himself on the floor. Like none of those things that would be typical trigger for behavior problems. He didn't have any of that. It was he confused the D and the B. Oh, he'll never be able to read. And I'm like, well, that was fast. Like,
wow, they came after you for that. I have
they came
many,
after me
many
for
tons
that.
more story. I have tons more stories than that. Well, we got to take a
Well, I
commercial
know,
break,
I
Barbie.
know.
When we come back, we'll see a little clip about forced psych evals by the public school system and by the government, which we were just talking about with Barbie right there. And we'll continue this conversation. I want to get her to tell us about the book and what's in it and why parents need to buy it. We'll be right back with Barbie Rivera.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
The state of Illinois is now demanding that children beginning in the 3rd grade in public school undergo annual psychiatric evaluations.
At a time when our kids are struggling with anxiety and depression more than ever before, it's our responsibility to ensure that young people have all the support that they need to get the help that they deserve.
The new law will require public schools to offer age-appropriate screenings to identify mental health concerns in students in the 3rd through 12th grades.
The point of these annual screenings is to ensure that they drug as many children as possible with psychoactive medications so that those children become loyal customers of Big Pharma for life. And of course, they'll also become profoundly unhappy people, which accounts for roughly 100% of the Democrats' voter base. So it's a win-win for politicians like J.B. Pritzker and for Big Pharma, and it's a lose-lose for you and for your children.
We've got to save our kids from this government indoctrination and this government labeling and pigeonholing them, especially our boys, into these mental health categories that really shouldn't apply in most cases. I think the numbers of kids on medication, on psychotropic medication especially, are through the roof, and it's totally unnecessarily so. And I'm telling you, we have a rise in things like anxiety. Those drugs cause anxiety. We have a rise in suicide. Those drugs make you suicidal and homicidal in many, many cases. That's 2 known side effects. So my guest today is Barbie Rivera. She's a mom that was drawn into this system needlessly with her 6-year-old son when he was in I guess it was 1st grade, right, Barbie?
Yeah,
and
1st grade.
had to learn how the system worked. Wrote a book about it called Enough is Enough. And in the book, what do you hope that the average reader gets out of the book?
Well, I hope that the average reader gets out of the book that they can do something about it, that you don't have to listen to that. Like as soon as somebody said, oh, he has a disability, I'm like, no, he doesn't. I can disagree with that. I can't disagree with cancer. I can't disagree with the cavity, but those 2 things you can prove. Those 2 things you can prove. And the mental illness or the learning disabilities, you actually can't prove it. It's not part of the DNA. There is no blood test for it. There is no brain scan for it. So it's this nebulous diagnosis based on a checklist. And to that, I argue, well, what if I consider myself a decent parent. Not all parents are. Not all teachers are good people. So what if you have a bad power tripping teacher that just wants to harm children? It happens. Plus, the pharmaceutical companies offer money to teachers, depending on what drug study it is, to get children on these drugs. And I know this for a fact because I was offered $5,000 per child that I would get on ADHD medication coming on the market. This was like 9 years ago. And I'm like, nobody's offering me any money to teach children to read. I've never once been offered, hey, my gosh, you're doing such a great job. This guy came in with crash test scores, and now look, he's in college with a scholarship. No one's ever paid me for that. They offer me, oh, well, we think that if you label them, you'll get this. Oh, you could get Apple products for everybody. You just need to get them in front of a psychiatrist. And I'm like, frankly, I tell them all to go to hell. And the thing that shocks me is, especially on the drug trial, the pharmaceutical company went to daycares, sports and recreation, like after school programs, charter schools, private schools, public schools, to get the principal to agree to this drug study. And I was the only one, according to them, I was the only one in South Florida to say no to the money. I'm like, I'm not doing this. Like, why am I going to do this? It's far easier to teach somebody to read and write. And what I use, not that you're asking, I use old books. The way it used to be done.
Yeah.
Old books, Plato, dictionaries. It's really simple. Like, it was easy to solve my child. It took me 2 years to get his confidence back. My other 3 children never stepped foot in school. They never thought they were stupid. And not that I tried to do this, because I'm okay intelligence. I have a relatively higher IQ than the average person. My children are light years ahead of me because they didn't grow up. Like, they weren't touched by that mindset that, oh, well, you prefer music, so that makes you blah, blah, blah. And this one likes animals, so he doesn't want to do anything else, but that makes him, like, there's a label for everything. But
Yeah.
you can also disagree with that label. So that's what I did. And honestly, that's what I continue to do. My school went from a homeschool activity where I had, at one point, I think at my highest in my house, I had 17 kids coming to me every day. That the parents were like, that's it. We don't want them in school. So the parents withdrew their children into homeschooling, and then they paid me to do it. Now, since the pandemic, that's called a micro school. So essentially, that's what I did. And then I had a parent step up with a 10-year-old girl who could not read. She was in 4th grade. I write about it in my book. And I told this mom, I'm like, okay, my 17-year-old son, which was the reason I got into this, he was 17 at the time, is going to be your daughter's teacher/tutor. And we're going to go back to the beginning. Anyway, in 6 weeks, my son had this girl who could not read, could not do math. The educators could not crack her. The psychiatrist wanted to drug her. He had her at a rock solid 3rd grade level. And the mom was like, okay, we got to move this out of your house. You can't keep this to yourself. What's it going to take? And she ended up putting up $125,000 to move out of my house and into a storefront, where then we started helping hundreds of kids.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
On the book, do you ever speak to like teachers groups about the book to tell them what's in the book, and so they have the benefit of
I
your
haven't
knowledge?
yet. Well, sometimes I have. Like, sometimes teachers will come to me because they're just as miserable as the students are. Like, they know something's not right by asking a kindergartner to sit in a chair for 8 hours a day. And then if they run around, oh, well, there's a checklist to do. Like, the amount of administrative work a teacher has to do per child, I'm like, this is ridiculous. When do you get to teach? And when do you have the ability to teach? Like, it can't all be the same. You have to bring your personality into it. And that's where, for me personally, I don't feel like I sacrificed my art for my school because they're both very creative. So as long as I'm creative with something, I'm personally good. Not that that matters to anybody, but I'm good. And like right now in my school, I'm the middle school teacher. Number one favorite topic, favorite subject of all my kids is reading. How many middle schoolers say that? Like
Wow.
they want to read every single day, but it's because I explain the words to them. I'm like, okay, I need sound effects from you. I need this. And it's exciting. And I cram them all. It's 11 kids, cram them all into my office. We take turns reading. I have most of the reading, but they love reading. And then I teach pre-algebra, and these kids are just like, I'm like, this is like, treat every problem like a crime scene. You have to unravel it. You have to follow the procedure. And they start doing it and defining words. And you see these kids that came in on 2, 3, 4 different medications with a list of learning disabilities that the parents, either they suffered, because I don't say anything about the drugs in terms of take your kid off. I can't do that. I'm not a doctor. But the parents are at that point. And if they're putting them with me, because I'm in basically a one-room schoolhouse in Miami, they're desperate for a change. And they don't really care that I don't have a soccer team or I don't have a cafeteria. Like that's the least of their worries. They want their child educated. Which I do. And I have a great little staff that I've trained up myself on. We don't do this. This is what we're doing. We're using older books, lots of times over, and it works. So what I hope people that get out of the book is, one, that the school system is not the same school system that we grew up in. And the A, like when I hear, oh, my son has an A on the report card, I don't believe it. Like I believe that they have a physical A on a piece of paper. I don't think it means anything. And to that point, 2 weeks ago, I got a new student. I know the mother, and she's like, okay, my son, he's top of the class in 7th grade. If he comes here, could you move him to 8th grade? I'm like, well, if he can do the 8th grade work, sure, we can skip a grade. I've done that before successfully. He comes in and he's like, got a straight A report card. He's like, I was educated, right? Because I told them about my book. I'm like, the education system is no longer it's not educating. They're doing something else. First 6 problems on multiplication, this boy got wrong. Turns out he doesn't know the difference. 7th grade. He doesn't know the difference between a penny, nickel, dime, or quarter. He can't even name them. He doesn't know the months of the year. He doesn't know what a subject of a sentence is. Now, to this kid's credit, he's got a lot of spice in him, which I like. Like he's got a bit of a fight and a bit of a sass. So he's up for the challenge. In his first 3 days with me, this is his 2nd week with me, he was getting 60%, 65%. And then he started getting 80s. And now this year he's posting 100%. Again, he's defining words. I'm making him responsible. I go, I don't care if you were dropped on your head in the other school. Here, you need to pick up the pace because I don't want to put you back in 7th grade. If you're in 8th grade, we're going to do 8th grade. But we need to be responsible for the definitions of words. And you could see him, as a simple example, I'm like, what's the definition of the word dog? He's animal. I'm like, sorry, that's not good enough. So is a mouse, so is a whale. And you can see the wheels turning to where he starts evolving and challenging himself to come up with the proper definition. Now apply that to mathematics, apply that to English, apply that to reading, apply that to language arts, apply that to science. And I would guess, I can't verify this, but I would guess this boy's gone up at least 2.5 grade levels in 10 days with me.
That's
just
fantastic.
on that alone.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I had to pull my youngest son out of public school going into 7th grade, and the first thing I did was get him off all medications. It took me about 6 months under a doctor's supervision, and the doctor helping me do it to get him off everything. But that was, for me, us, and for him, that was probably the best decision that's ever been made for him, because he was about where this kid you're talking about was at. Couldn't count money, didn't understand, didn't even understand the months of the year, all of
Yeah.
them, all of that stuff is where he was at. And getting the meds out of his body helped clear his mind, you
Oh,
know.
absolutely.
And then the curriculum that I used was really basic, like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And he's fine. He's 21 now, finishing his third semester in community college, and a welder, mechanic, car mechanic, and amazing. He's an amazing kid, and he has the most common sense of all five of my children. He's number five. He's the most common sense, most conservative from a financial perspective. Understands
Hmm.
the world better than I did when I was 21, and I was in the military and a sergeant already. For goodness sake. We got to take another break, Barbie. But when we come back, I want to get your description of your micro school and how it works as compared to what we now know as a public school, because I have some thoughts on that and some ideas on the little red schoolhouse concept that we probably ought to take a real serious look at going back to universally here in America. We'll be right back with Barbie Rivera.
CDC reported that 11.4% of all children in the U.S. have ADHD, pardon me. That's 1 in 9. Why are these numbers going up? Part of me wonders if the diagnosis is actually accurate, doctor.
Well, we're talking about attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, and rates are going up all over the world. So it's not just the United States. The same is true with autism. I can tell you that there is increased recognition of both disorders, but there almost certainly is an overprescription of the two major drug categories for ADHD, which are Ritalin and Adderall. And that's because of use in older children who are using it for academic performance. So a strict 6-point definition of ADHD under age 12, that's really the real thing. But it's being used now in teenagers and in college students who really probably don't meet the definition.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Training Tuesday. My guest today is Barbie Rivera. She's the author of Enough is Enough, and experienced the school system trying to say that her child was mentally handicapped and needed to be on medication for his entire life in order to be able to learn. And she saw right through it and took steps very quickly to get her son and her kids away from that particular public school system and get into a homeschool environment. And Barbie, your school, your micro school, it sounds kind of like the Little Red Schoolhouse concept back in the day before we had this socialized public school system that we see today, run by the governments. You know, communities would have a one-room schoolhouse. All ages of children were in it. The older kids would help the teacher with the younger kids. And folks seemed to be much more well-rounded. They knew how to read, write, do math. by the time they graduated. That doesn't happen today.
No, it doesn't. And sadly, like this is such a education to me is such a outlet of creativity and joy. And if that teacher feels that joy and the student feels that joy, that's a wonderful thing. But all of this like stress and this and that, the school system, we have test scores. Oh, they have to meet this, they have to meet that. That's not okay. And I'll tell you the thing that I ran into when I was homeschooling was I would tutor students who had made it to 9th, 10th, 11th grade who factually could not read. Maybe they could read cat, rattan, and hat or something like that. They were at a first grade reading level. But as a homeschooler, boy, I better be on the ball because my students better be able, it's like I had more regulations on me than the school system did. And I thought that was backwards. I mean, I think children should be able to read. I think they should be able to learn. And I think they should be looked at as what are they able to do, not let's make a list of the disabilities. And going back to my son, okay, he confused these letters. Well, what if somebody sat in a car with me when I was 16, 17, and 18, and every time I made a wrong turn, they checked the box. That's not fair because I'm going to make wrong turns. That's how I get to make right turns. I'm not saying cause a major accident, but you don't have it all figured out. But yet in the psych community, our kids are supposed to have it all figured out. And then we have this term, AD, hyperactive. And I'm like, that's the stupidest term I've ever heard because children are naturally more active than adults. That's like me, like right now I have my basset hound is sleeping, thank goodness, because he was howling right before I came on. That's like saying when he's a puppy, he's hyper bitey. I better drug him because he's hyper bitey. He chews on everything. No, that's what a puppy does. That's why you have to get the crate. That's why you have to get, you have to exercise them more. That's called living in life. And we just want to rob the child of that by drugging him and making him have enough about the same personality as a water bottle.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. And I saw, like, even though my son wasn't drugged, I saw just what the curriculum and the intensity that they came at him. Like, I'm like, okay, he's in first grade. He's not trying for a PhD here. People, let's just back off. Which then I was looked at as a bad person because I don't hold a college degree. I don't hold this. I don't hold that. But I think that's a silly excuse because those with the college degrees shut down my son. That's not their job. They're supposed to educate him. So is there any, do I have a grounds to find fault on that? Because they were finding fault on me left and right. And I'm not a mom that's like, oh, my son never does anything wrong. I fully aware of what my kids do, fully aware of what children do. Like I come from a family, I tell this story. I'm like, my parents had 5. They didn't get matching furniture until all 5 of us moved out of the house because they knew we were crazy. And that's the way it was. You were supposed to have a noisy, rambunctious house. Well, now it's supposed to be quiet. We put our kids on a device so they don't bother us. We make them nice and comfortable. Oh, that you have to read this book. If you like animals, we can't give you animals because you have to like this book. Oh, if you like sea turtles, we're not going to, you already read a book about sea turtles. Well, maybe he wants to read another one. Maybe he wants to read 1,000 of them. The point is he's reading.
Yeah.
And
maybe he wants to be a sea turtle doctor or
exactly.
Right. Oceanographer or something, and the sea turtle reading helps him do that.
Yeah, well, and it's not hurting anybody to let him read that.
Yeah.
Like,
so
what is it?
How does your school work?
Well, I calculate. I am counted as a private school because now I'm in a commercial location. I think Florida needs to open it up to like where there's other categories. So I'm a private school. Florida's very friendly when it comes to private schools and micro schools because I could have a school at my house I think I'd be limited to 6 children,
Mhm.
which is what I do tell teachers. I'm like, if you're frustrated with the system, bring the system to your house. You have complete control. If you want to teach 7th grade, get 6 7th graders, charge, I don't know, 1,000, 1,200 a month. You'll make more than you were making at school.
Mhm.
Charge for, have a material list, which includes toilet paper, paper towels. So you're not out of any of that. Have a material fee, all of those things. And then get your curriculum. Now, and that's how it goes. What I want to do, which is one of the reasons why I wrote the book, is the biggest thing that I want to solve the problem that I needed solved when I started this, which is curriculum, because this is a wonderful book. You're only
Yes.
going to know if it's wonderful if you've been in it for as long as I have. When I started out 27 years old, I looked at I bought phonics things, and it wasn't like you could do things online right now. Like you couldn't research. You just had to buy it. And if it was not good, you lost your money. It was whatever.
Right.
But I have collected, this was how it used to be done in the 20s, how you taught a child to read. And then this is from 1883, an arithmetic book that's wonderful. And it has, and I don't know, they're just wonderful. And you go back to where the United States was #1 in the world in 1910. This was before Rockefeller got involved, before the psychologists took over, before psychiatry became the authority of our children. So I've collected 450 of these books because what I want to do is solve the materials issue, because that's the problem today. Is like the math has been twisted into, like, I have a math here. Let me see, let me find a page. This is 1st grade math, but the vocabulary on here is beyond 1st grade. So it doesn't make any sense. So what I want to do is take these old books, put together textbooks that a homeschooler can easily use, and the student can easily use, that have a logical progression of mastery of skill, because back in the day, it was about mastering skills fully before you moved on. Now it's how much can we cram into a time period. And if they forget it, they forget it. And our standards are so low. If they get 70%, we give them an A. It's like there's so many curves. That's why I don't trust the A's. I don't trust the A's. Oh, he's got an A. I'm like, I don't care. Can he make a peanut butter sandwich? Can he? Because chances are he can't. So that A doesn't mean anything to me. Anyway, so I wrote the book because to fund this, that's a pretty penny. For me to retire out of being a middle school teacher, which I love being a middle school teacher, but I think I could impact more if I were to produce, let's say, a line of math textbooks, kindergarten to 8th grade, that you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand them. You don't have to hold any degree. It's what I would have needed when I was 27, of average intelligence, to have a win with my kids. And then and then I go to reading, and then I go to language, and then I go to this, and I go to that. That's really what I want to do. And that was one of the reasons why I wrote the book, is there's going to be 2 things. Either I become a best-selling author and I fund it myself, which, if, this is going to sound cliche, if I were to win the lottery, I'm not buying a boat. Like, if I were to win the lottery, I would find my kids, my son, who's a businessman now, and I'm like, okay, Mr. Businessman, this is what I need. Who do you know? Because we're going to put this together. Publishing, and I know nothing about publishing, but textbook publishing, it's $1 billion industry. And the textbooks that I come across for grade school that I tutor across, they're horrific. They are. They're just horrific. So again, the more psychology, the more psychiatry, the more experts involved in creating a math curriculum, I can tell you it's not going to result in a child understanding math to where they can use it, to where they can cook, they they can figure it out. You know, it's like they're not going to have that scientific mindset, which comes from math, or even problem solving skills, which also comes from math. Handwriting's not even taught anymore. And I'm like, to me, that's the first discipline, is how to control a line. If you have good handwriting, guess what that leads to? Piano playing, carpentry, guitar playing, art. Like it leads to all of that. And one thing I saw online that I thought, again, I thought this was ridiculous, was there was a guy from, I don't know what Ivy League school, and he was like 30 and he's in his white coat and he's a childhood expert. And he's like, well, we have a new therapy. It's called dirt therapy for boys. And we think boys should play in the dirt for 30 minutes. And I'm like, that cost you $250,000 to figure that out? I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Dirt therapy, that's the stupidest thing.
Yeah, we got to take our last commercial break. That's a great way to end that segment. We'll be right back with Barbie Rivera. Go get the book, Enough is Enough, folks, especially if you're a parent with kids about to go into school, or even if you haven't had kids yet, but you're planning on it. Every parent should get a copy of this book. Man, I wish I'd have had it when my youngest son was born. We'll be right back.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work, try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home, went to bed.
I was bored in school. Lots of us were. And when kids are bored and restless, schools usually blame the kid.
1 in 5 high school boys diagnosed with ADHD.
Millions are given drugs to try to make them sit still.
I was the rowdy kid. That was the bad kid. And so they really pressured my parents to actually put me on ADHD medication.
Adderall.
Yeah, Adderall, Ritalin. It was like I had been lobotomized. And my parents said, this is not our son.
They then sent him to other schools. He hated them all.
I would come home, I would sometimes just cry. What better things could I have been doing during that time where I was just sitting in a classroom having information chucked at me?
So what did you do?
I left.
He left because he heard about a school that teaches in a different way.
Like, okay, so how do we actually increase our knowledge?
The school is the Academy of Thought and Industry.
No way.
But the school costs money.
I got a job at a coffee shop.
To work here, he got up at 3 in the morning. By 3:30, he was in the shop, setting up tables and chairs, cleaning the counters.
I would get the bacon frying, get all the breakfast items ready.
Hard work just to go to this school. Academy of Thought and Industry. It sounds Soviet.
I want my students to think with their minds and understand the world, and I want them to get stuff done.
Michael Strong started the academy, telling parents kids learn better by doing actual work.
Teens need responsibility. Ben Franklin, Andrew Carnegie, Thomas Edison started their careers at the age of 12 or 13.
Yeah, that was abusive child labor.
I worked as a teen. I loved it.
At his schools, there are now 2, with more on the way. Students get Fridays off to work on their own projects. There are no lectures. Instead, students read and discuss things.
Because there's still people.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. We're talking about how do we save our kids from the indoctrination of the public school system and the manipulation of these kids being put on psychotropic drugs for their entire lives and being categorized as ADHD, as is one, and the overprescription and just making money for big pharma. And it's amazing how many little tricks are out there, and none of them have the best interest of your son or daughter at heart when it comes to their education. Not one single one of those has their best interest at heart. You have their best interest at heart. And my guest today is Barbie Rivera. She's one of those moms that saw this happening with her son and took charge of her children's education and took charge and took it away from these public school systems and created her own school. And now she is a private school person. She has a private school in Florida and everything, and has written a book called Enough is Enough. You ought to get a copy of it. And Barbie, welcome back. One of the things that struck me in that clip there is what you were talking about in your school is that the way you do the reading, where you get all the kids around your desk, and you have sound effects things and all that. And that the gentleman in that clip with John Stossel, that school is very similar approach. It's hands-on in addition to mind. In addition to your mind, it's hands-on. And I think being hands-on develops the mind in a much better way. I started working when I was 13.
Agree 100%. 100%.
Yeah. Well, we've got a live audience, and we have a question from a member of the live audience. Let's go ahead and take that question before we get to the end of the show. Shell is our hostess over there. Go ahead, Shell.
We have Liz, sir.
Good afternoon. Wow. I was curious about the drugs because I noticed when they put my granddaughter on them, her personality changed. And now, as she's gotten older, she's becoming more snarky.
Mm-hmm.
Did you find that to be true with your son, Colonel? Or
well, my son was never drugged. My son was never drugged, but I've had students who were just like, let's say they were having a hard time with math and the parents decide to put them on drugs, and you see it change. Like some of these drugs are classed as CNS medication, central nervous system, because that's what they alter. And I argue that my son at age 6, he needs his central nervous system if he is going to learn to read. That should not be altered. And when they say mind altering drugs, that's what it does alter, because most people, you see your neighbor, you say, hey neighbor, and the neighbor says, hey, how are you? Mind altering is, hey neighbor, how are you? Get out of my face. That's mind altering. It's not normal. It's not the normal response.
Yeah,
and
when my son,
that's what makes the drug so dangerous.
Exactly. When my son got older, he could describe it to me, and I started asking him. This is why I got him off of him. He said, "Dad, it makes it feel like there's a concrete block on my head when I'm on the medication, and when it dissipates, the concrete block is gone, and I can think again." That's exactly how he put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's similar to what other students have told me.
Yeah, and it does change their personality completely. He is when I got him off the medication, he's a completely different kid. Never an outburst when we were doing the learning environment, where it was every day in the learning environment before when he was on the medication. Barbie, when we look at schools like what was shown on the clip and yours, are you working to try to make this bigger so that we can supplant the socialized public school system that's not working? I mean, we didn't have that. You mentioned 1910 and the 1800s from the books and everything. That wasn't the kind of school system we had then. We didn't have the kind of school system that's creating this disaster.
Right. Well, we had like 16 and 17-year-old girls that were running these one-room schoolhouses by themselves and producing genius level people. And again, I don't push religion with where I am. However, I do mention, and it is in the book, that this country was founded on the tenets of God. And when I look at like all of these old books, again, I have over 450. They have a beginning part, which is like a note to the teacher. And it will tell you that there were like, we want the student to graduate knowing mastering the subject. And again, it's very male dominated, whatever, so that the men can go on and lead moral, godly lives, entrepreneurs, and have great leadership in their family and in their community. And I'm like, I'll take it. I want that. Like, I want the way it was back then. So yes, I want to make it bigger. Like, I want to, after this book, I'm going to write a book about microschooling. So again, I write the way I talk. So this book is not a hard read at all. And this week it just came out in Spanish, which is
awesome.
Yeah, I have a Cuban director and actor who did it. He read the English book and he's like, I need this for my people. And I'm like, okay, how much is it going to cost me? He told me, and we're done. So it's on Amazon now. But yes, I want to make it bigger. I want to solve the problem that I had when I was 27 and going into this. So I want to have a whole series of textbooks that have the answer keys, the guides. And if you don't follow the guide 100%, we're still going to get the result. If you want to add Jesus, we're still going to get the result, because we're going to strip it back to ABC 1, 2, 3. We're going to get rid of all this Common Core, all of this nonsense, all of this political, psychological, all of this confusion. We're going to just wipe it out. And we're going to start at the very beginning, and we're going to duplicate what worked back in 1910, because the same phonics, the alphabet has not changed.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm against the devices. Somebody has asked me, oh, will you make an online version? I'm like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I want the children to know how to write cursive. I want them to be able to control their pencil. I want pencil and paper. And I might lose that battle. I really hope I don't, because we're so far gone. Like, I see it every day with some of the kids that come in, and they're 6 years old or 7 years old. Their eyes are empty. And I ask the parent, what are they on? How can you tell they're on a drug? I'm like, how can you not?
Yeah.
Yes, and my name is Barbie. So that's already, for the little girls, are like, oh, my principal's name is Barbie. But the ones that are on drugs, it doesn't even faze them. And I have a whole Barbie display in my office. It's fun. I'm a principal, so it's fun.
Sure.
You have these kids that come in on drugs and they don't even know that they're drugged. They're just so subdued. They're so zombified. It's just so sad. Because it's like I tell my personal children, who are all adults, I go, I think you guys were the last generations to run through the rain or build, a fort out of sticks, or dig holes, or get dirt therapy. Like, come on. I think you guys were the last ones to do that. And that's sad.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to, we had trees in our backyard, a lot of them. And, my son, I almost said little guy, he's 21 now, but I insisted. I told him, I said, go climb those trees. And his mom looked at me like, are you crazy? I'm like, no, go climb those trees. I did that when I was a boy, all over the world, in Africa, from Africa to the west coast of the United States and beyond. And that was one of the things that taught me how to be self-sufficient, make decisions, was something like tree climbing, and the next thing you know, he was building tree houses at the age of 11.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
and
great.
again, like, it's perfect. So like, I did something for kindergarten. I was helping somebody with kindergarten, and I put together a piece of the kindergarten math program, and I had a guide for the parent. And it's super simple. Like, if you're learning the color red, for example, so you color this heart. And if the student will let you, mom or dad, color with them, you both color it. Then you get up and you go for a walk, and you find 10 things or 15 things that are red. And if it's raining, or if it's 30 below zero, you walk through the house. But I want you up and out. And when you're learning to count to 5, you go through the house and I'm like, how many bathtubs are there? Hoping that the person isn't filthy rich and there's like 50 bathtubs in the house. But I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's going to be around 5 or 6. But they have to get up out of their chair. And this is how I educated my kids. And they loved it. They loved school. And my kids now, they're not my personal, but my students now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we do arts and crafts, we do this, we do that. And they're like, Barbie, can you read this book to us? Every year I read Witches, Roald Dahl, and I read it to the kids. And every year, 30 years, I've been reading this book. And every year they're like, could you read it again? Could you read it again? And that's how it should be. It should be that thrill.
Yeah, excitement to get it.
The excitement that it's fun.
Absolutely.
It's fun,
Well, Barbie,
social, and you're doing something.
Well, thank you so much for spending this hour with us. This has been fascinating. Tell folks real quick how they can find you, find the book, and what's next on your horizon.
Well, the next on my horizon is to do quite a bit of fundraising so that I can buy a school building, the bricks red school house, and I want to get this curriculum going, which is a full-time job. So you can find me at barbierivera.com. If you subscribe to my website, you will get the first 6 chapters for free. The book is available on Amazon. Enough is Enough, and then it's available in the Latam version, Basta Ya, also on Amazon, which it released this week.
Well, thank you so much. God bless you. I appreciate it. I hope to get you back sometime.
Thank you.
Well, folks, tomorrow is Whistleblower Wednesday. We're not really blowing the whistle tomorrow, but I will be having retired U.S. Army infantryman Brigadier General John Scales on from Alabama, and we're going to be talking about what he and I are going to do this Saturday, October 25th, in Section 16 of Arlington National Cemetery. You don't want to miss it. I'll see you then on The Rob Maness Show.